of you again. Thank you very much for coming here and supporting Scott. A lot of you guys know him for different reasons, from friendships, from professional, and we all love him, and we're very, very excited that he's going to be our next delegate. So thank you guys very much for coming out. I want to acknowledge some people that are here in the crowd. Delegate Barry Knight is here. He's here for Delegate Barry Knight. Bob Perky, thank you for coming out and supporting very much. Bob Tata, again, thank you very much for coming out. Jim Wood, saw Jim a second ago. Jim, thank you. Jim, thank you. And of course, Mayor Willis Hessens, thank you very much. I want to take a couple of minutes really quick, and Scott and I are really good friends, and you know, he's my boy. Okay, that's why we're here. But the good thing about it is Scott translates his personality and his drive into everybody's boy. Everybody is Scott's friend, and nothing motivates someone on a professional level like that commitment, that love that we have for Scott. So I want a quick little story. I can't tell all my stories of how I know Scott because most of them are so classified. but one thing that he does is he inspires people to work hard, and that's why I'm excited to see him as delegate, because I know he'll be able to do what's needed to get people to work towards the goal that we all need here in Virginia. And one of those things is we were dealing with a couple other campaigns. We sat down and working hard, and I pull Scott aside and I say, Scott, when the election comes down, if it's not about money, and it's not about name recognition, and all that's left is your good looks, Will Sessoms is still going to beat you. But someone who has known Scott a lot longer than I have, and has been a great influence in his life. A lot of you might not know that Scott was a product of the Big Brothers, very successful product of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. And I want to introduce a man who retired military, father of two, but it's been a great influence in Scott's life. He was his big brother since the age of 12. And I want to bring up Andy. Will you please come up here and tell us, probably the man who knows Scott better than anybody. Come on and tell us a little bit
about Scott. Scott became my little brother, and I became his big brother when he was around 12 years old, and in Maryland. We did the things that guys do. I have two daughters, and he was sort of became like my half son, half brother. And we went hunting and fishing and played basketball. I was coaching college lacrosse, and I took him to all the lacrosse practices. And I think it was about 14 years old. We went into a convenience store, and we came out to check out, and he has these comic books. And I said, Scott, what are you doing? And you know how 14-year-old boys are. A lot of us were 14-year-old boys at one time. He said, I got comic books. I said, you don't read comic books. You're 14. He said, what do I read? I said, well, you read books. He said, well, I don't know anything about books. I said, well, we'll get you some books. So I happen to have some Louis L'Amour novels. I don't know whether any of you know about Louis L'Amour, but he wrote about 500 Western novels. They were little paperback books, about 150 pages. They were all the same. He just changed the name of the characters. Well, Scott started reading Louis L'Amour novels, and he read every Louis L'Amour novel, I think, in Wycomico County. And he developed a real love for reading. And when he was in the Navy, I got a text from him from the jungles of Colombia from a mountain tent at 2 o'clock in the morning. And he said he was reading the Iliad. Now there's a guy who went from comic books at 14 to reading the Iliad at 19. And I don't know if a lot of you know this, but he's going to graduate from Harvard University this fall. So the other story I like to tell is when he graduated, getting ready to graduate from high school, I said, we're going to go to college. He said, well, I don't really want to go to college. I want to join the Navy. I said, well, why do you want to join the Navy? He said, well, I really want to serve my country. And he was in the Navy. He said, I want to become a SEAL. I said, oh boy, that's tough. Why do you want to become a SEAL? He said, well, I want to serve my country. And when Scott became a SEAL, he was the youngest SEAL in the Navy. I guess at age 18, Scott? I don't know what it was, but he was the youngest SEAL in the Navy. And a few years later, he became a sniper and an instructor, and then we talked on the phone a lot. He said, I'm going to volunteer for Iraq. And I said, well, why do you want to volunteer for Iraq? He said, well, I really want to serve my country. And he went to Iraq, and again, a lot of you may not know this, but he was on a night mission and fell through a booby trap and fell 20 feet, landing flat on his back, broke all 7 ribs on his right side, collapsed his lungs. I'm not sure what else broke, but he was unconscious, and they shot him with morphine and called the Helovac. And when he woke up, he was strapped in, and plus was morphined up, and he thought he was paralyzed. And he was telling me this, and I said, well, what did you think when you thought you were paralyzed? And he said, well, I served my country, and if that's the price I had to pay, I was willing to do it. And I think that those 2 incidents show a lot of his character and what kind of a person he is, how the perseverance that he has, and a person that wants to give. And today, too many of our politicians take. They don't give, they don't serve. And Scott genuinely wants to do that. And I think he'll make a great legislator. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the reality of politics is that it's very expensive to do that. And so I really would like everybody here this evening, right now, to make a contribution to his candidacy. And I'd like to pass this around. We're done. Somebody else want to grab one here? I'm going to start off with $100, and everybody put something in, and get it rolling. Thank you very much.